Britain has nuclear weapons, aircraft carriers, and one of the largest defense budgets in Europe. But without American support, sustaining a major conflict would be extremely difficult. That is the uncomfortable reality defense planners rarely discuss in public. The immediate issue is this. British defense relies on American intelligence, logistics, nuclear umbrella, and military technology at levels most citizens don't realize. We're talking about satellite coverage, air-to-air refuelling, precision munitions, and cyber defense. Remove that support, and Britain's ability to project power drops dramatically. Not just abroad. Even defending our own airspace and waters becomes significantly more difficult. Here's what concerns me. The political rhetoric says Britain is a top-tier military power. We have capable forces and advanced equipment. But I'm analysing actual operational capacity, and the picture is different. Our aircraft carriers are formidable, but they operate with American F-35 jets, American supply chains, and American escort vessels in high-threat environments. Alone, they're vulnerable. If deterrence fails, Britain's margin for error is thin. So how did we get here? After the Cold War, Britain made a strategic decision. We would maintain a technologically advanced but smaller military and operate as America's most reliable partner. That partnership gave us access to American intelligence, shared technology, and nuclear deterrence through NATO. It worked for 30 years, but the model depended on one assumption, that America would always be engaged. That assumption is now under stress. I'm tracking 3 developments. First, American political consensus on European defense is fracturing. Second, America is pivoting to the Indo-Pacific. China is the priority, not Europe. Third, NATO burden sharing has become toxic in Washington. Britain spends 2.3% of GDP on defense. We meet the target, but we're still dependent on American enablers we don't control. The financial context is stark. Britain's defense budget is £50 billion annually. To replicate even a fraction of what America provides, satellites, strategic airlift, ballistic missile defense, would require an additional £30 to £40 billion per year over a decade. That's politically unviable. The NHS is under pressure. The economy is sluggish. Voters will not accept massive defense increases unless there's an immediate threat. By then, it's too late. Now let's examine the actors. First, Britain. We want to maintain our global role and remain a serious military power. Our leverage is intelligence capability and nuclear weapons. Our weakness is budget constraints and dependency on American systems. If we're forced to choose between rearmament and domestic spending, the political pressure favors the latter. Military capability takes years to build. Second, the United States. America wants allies who share the burden, but American patience with European free riding is running out. Their leverage is overwhelming. They provide intelligence, logistics, the nuclear guarantee. Their weakness is overstretch. America cannot focus on China, Russia, the Middle East, and Europe simultaneously. Something has to give. Increasingly, that's Europe. If Britain becomes just another dependent ally rather than a capable partner, American support will decline. Third, Russia. Russia wants NATO divided and Britain isolated. Their leverage is energy coercion and hybrid warfare. Their weakness is a struggling economy and a degraded military. But here's the part most overlook. Russia doesn't need to invade Britain. They need to create enough instability that we cannot respond effectively. Cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, disinformation, interference in Northern Ireland, low-cost, high-impact tactics. If Britain doesn't have American intelligence support, we're significantly more vulnerable. Fourth, China. China's interest is primarily economic, but they're watching our military posture carefully. If Britain cannot defend its trade routes, its territorial waters, its cyber networks without American help, China gains leverage, not through confrontation, through incremental pressure. Huawei was an early test. Future tests will be more subtle. Fifth, European allies. France and Germany want Britain engaged in European defense, but they also see us as America's voice, not a fully committed European power. Their leverage is market access. Their weakness is fragmented procurement and political divisions. If Britain pivots towards Europe for security, we gain redundancy, but we also inherit Europe's capability gaps, and those gaps are substantial. This is where the leverage sits. Britain has the fifth largest defence budget globally, but we're a medium power facing great power threats. Our nuclear deterrent is credible, but it's existential insurance, not day-to-day defence. Our intelligence services are world-class, but they rely on American satellite coverage and signals intelligence. Our Navy is skilled, but we have fewer than 20 destroyers and frigates to cover global commitments. Our Air Force is capable, but we don't have enough aircraft to sustain operations without American tanker support. Put simply, Britain can defend the homeland against most conventional threats. We can patrol our airspace, secure our waters, deter low-level aggression, but if the threat escalates, sustained cyber warfare, hybrid operations, coordinated infrastructure attacks, we need help, American help. And if that help isn't there, we're forced into reactive, defensive postures. Here's what I'm concerned about. The public debate treats defense as abstract. Politicians talk about carriers and jets. What they don't explain is the scaffolding that makes those assets effective. The logistics chains, the spare parts, the training pipelines, the intelligence feeds. That scaffolding is heavily American, and if it's removed, our entire operational model needs rebuilding. The escalation risk works like this. If America signals withdrawal from European security, Russia tests British resolve, not through invasion, through incremental pressure, a cyber attack on the national grid, a disinformation campaign targeting Scotland, a close encounter in the North Sea. Each incident is below the threshold for NATO. Article 5. Each one tests our response. If Britain cannot respond decisively, if our intelligence is slower, our cyber defense is weaker, our diplomatic leverage reduced, Russia gains confidence, and the next test is bolder. Meanwhile, Britain faces a credibility crisis. If we cannot defend ourselves, why would Australia, Japan, or India see us as a reliable partner in the Indo-Pacific? Why would smaller NATO allies trust British security guarantees? And why would America prioritize British interests if we're just another dependent state? Credibility is cumulative. It builds slowly. It erodes quickly. This matters for Britain because our entire post-Brexit strategy depends on being a serious, independent actor. Global Britain. Indo-Pacific tilt. New trade agreements. None of that works if we're militarily dependent and strategically limited. We end up in the worst possible position, isolated from Europe, abandoned by America, and unable to defend our own interests. Now the situation becomes more serious. Britain's defence industrial base is eroding. BAE Systems is capable, but we've lost shipbuilding capacity, we've outsourced key technologies, and we depend on international supply chains vulnerable to disruption. If we need to ramp up production quickly, build more ships, manufacture more munitions, replace combat losses, we can't. Not at scale, not at speed. The Industrial Revolution was built here, but the defence industrial revolution is happening elsewhere. Let me walk through 3 scenarios, each based on current trajectories and identifiable pressure points. Scenario 1. Gradual American disengagement. This is the most likely path. America doesn't abandon NATO. It reduces commitments incrementally. Fewer troops in Europe, less intelligence sharing, slower response times, higher cost-sharing demands. Britain tries to fill the gap through increased defence spending and closer European cooperation. But it's insufficient. We end up doing more with less, stretched across too many commitments. The trigger is American domestic politics. A future administration facing economic pressure decides European defence is unsustainable. Britain is given 2 years' notice. We increase defence spending to 2.5% of GDP, then 2.8%. We order more ships, more aircraft, more munitions. But procurement timelines are long, and the political backlash is fierce. Voters demand to know why healthcare and education are being cut for defence. France and Germany offer partnership. Britain participates in joint European defence projects. But we discover that European integration is slow, bureaucratic, and politically fraught. Germany debates for years. France pursues its own interests. Poland and the Baltics demand guarantees Britain cannot provide alone. By the time the system is functional, Russia has already tested the gaps. The outcome is this. Britain remains secure from invasion, but we lose expeditionary capability. We cannot deploy meaningful forces beyond Europe. Our global influence contracts. Our trade suffers because we cannot protect distant sea lanes, and Britain becomes a regional power, not a global one. Who wins? Russia gains freedom of action in Eastern Europe. China gains leverage over Britain's economic policy. European powers gain influence at Britain's expense. Who loses? Britain's global ambitions, our alliances in the Indo-Pacific, our credibility as a serious power. The indicators to watch are American defense budgets, NATO troop levels in Europe, and British procurement announcements. If those trends continue downward, this scenario unfolds. Scenario 2. Crisis-driven acceleration. Britain faces a sudden, severe threat that forces rapid rearmament. The trigger could be Russian aggression in the Baltics, a major cyber attack on British infrastructure, or a naval confrontation in the North Sea. America provides limited support. Britain is forced to act independently. The government declares a national security emergency. Defense spending jumps to 3.5% of GDP. Conscription is debated. Industry is mobilized. Britain orders weapons, ships and aircraft on an emergency basis, accepting higher costs and longer timelines. Public support is strong initially, but as the economic impact becomes clear, higher taxes, cuts to services, inflation, support weakens. Britain turns to European and Commonwealth partners. We form a new defence pact with France, Poland and the Nordics. Australia and Canada provide symbolic support, but the reality is harsh. Britain is rebuilding capabilities we should never have lost. We're paying premium prices for rushed procurement, and we're doing it while facing an active threat. The outcome depends on timing. If the crisis is short, Britain survives with credibility intact but economically weakened. If the crisis is prolonged, Britain faces difficult choices. Do we negotiate from weakness? Do we escalate and risk wider conflict? Do we accept territorial or political concessions to buy time? Who wins? European defence contractors, politicians who advocated early rearmament, countries that maintained stronger militaries. Who loses? British taxpayers, British global ambitions. The indicators to watch are Russian military movements near NATO borders, cyber attack frequency and sophistication, and British naval deployments in contested waters. If tensions spike, this scenario accelerates. Scenario 3. Strategic realignment. Britain accepts that independent global power is unsustainable. We pivot fully towards European defence integration. This means shared procurement, joint command structures, and deeper political alignment with Brussels. It's the most controversial path domestically, but strategically it makes sense. The trigger is recognition. A comprehensive defence review conducted after a near-miss security incident concludes that Britain cannot defend itself alone. The government, facing political pressure, chooses European integration over isolation. Britain negotiates a defence partnership with France and Germany. We pool resources, share capabilities, and accept that some sovereignty is traded for security. The challenges are immense. British public opinion is divided. Sovereignty concerns dominate the debate. Scotland uses it to push for independence. Northern Ireland becomes more unstable, but over time the system works. Britain maintains capable forces within a larger European framework. We lose some independence but gain collective strength. The outcome is stability with constraints. Britain cannot act unilaterally, but we're part of a coalition that can deter Russia, manage crises, and protect European interests. Our global role shrinks. We're no longer a bridge between America and Europe. We're a European power with historical global ties. Who wins? European federalists. France, which gains a stronger European defence partner. Germany, which avoids sole responsibility. Who loses? British exceptionalism. The Anglo-American special relationship. Countries that relied on Britain as an independent actor. The indicators to watch are British-European defence agreements, NATO command structure changes, and British political rhetoric on sovereignty. If Britain starts talking about shared security rather than independent capability, this scenario is unfolding. So the core issue is this. Britain faces a choice. We can attempt to maintain independent military capability, but that requires sustained investment we're not currently making. We can deepen European defence integration, but that requires political compromises we're not willing to accept. Or we can continue as we are, dependent on American support that is increasingly unreliable. I'm analyzing all three scenarios and none is comfortable. The first leaves us weaker and isolated. The second is economically painful and politically divisive. The third challenges fundamental assumptions about British sovereignty. But the status quo is not sustainable. If America withdraws support, Britain will be forced to choose. The longer we delay, the fewer options we have. The system does not collapse overnight. It erodes. Britain still has capable forces, skilled personnel, and advanced technology. But we're structured for a world where America guarantees security and Britain operates as a capable partner. That world is changing. Whether Britain adapts in time is another matter. The choices are hard, but they're real, and they're coming faster than most people think.